Trump is running on the 1968 Nixon plan, right? Present yourself as the law and order president.
Hi, I'm Hermine Hartman with Indigo Studio, and today we've got a very special guest, Madam Mayor Lori Lightfoot, number 56. She's the 56th mayor of our great city. Her term started in 2019. Voters gave her a mandate. She carried all 50 wards in the city. Before being mayor, she was a lawyer with one of the largest firms in the city, Mayer Brown. She served as president of the Chicago Police Board and chaired the Chicago Police Accountability Task Force. She's the first open gay African-American mayor in America. She's the third African-American to be mayor of the city of Chicago, and she is only the second woman to be mayor. And she's got a lot to say. 2020, well, it's been quite a year. And here we are, Mayor Lori Lightfoot at City Hall in the city of Chicago. We're on the 5th floor. We're in her office. We're in the press office. And boy, she's got a lot to say. We even got some scoops. Stay tuned. Don't go away. Indigo Studio and I'm Hermine Hartman. Thank you for having us at City Hall to chat.
My pleasure.
Good to see you.
It's good to be seen.
And so you wanted to be mayor of the city of Chicago, huh? How you like it now?
Well, it's been an interesting, now almost 16 months.
So Chicago holds the status of being the most segregated city in the nation. And often we're said to be a tale of two cities. How do we stop that? How do we merge Chicago? How do we become one? How do you as mayor, what do you do? What can you do to deal with systemic racism?
Well, you've asked a lot there, so let's start with the segregation question. First of all, I think we've got to start with our young people. We've got to create more opportunities for the kids in Roseland to talk to the kids in Rogers Park. We got to have the people in Austin talking to the kids in Alcott Gardens. So we've got to bring our students together, and we can do that very easily now virtually. So we need to take advantage of those opportunities. But really, segregation is about housing. It's about redlining. It's about not creating opportunities for really creating Black wealth and economic development in communities. So we have embarked upon a number of different strategies to start to get at those decades-long areas of discrimination, from our Invest Southwest initiative, which is we are infusing $750 million city dollars and attracting private capital in the neighborhoods on the south and the west side. We've done a lot around affordable housing and making sure that we're building strength in neighborhoods so that when neighborhoods evolve, that gentrification doesn't mean displacement to the people who have been living there for a long time. We put money into Black and brown neighborhoods so that people who are homeowners, particularly our elders, have the ability to do the upkeep and maintenance because they've got resources with which to do that. So there's many other things that we can do, but those are some of the core strategies that we're doing, and all of those things get at systemic racism. One of the things I'm most proudest of is we hired and empowered a chief diversity and equity officer who is focused on looking at the ways in which city government has been a hindrance to racial equity and not a help. So she's spent a lot of time looking at different ways in which we can do things differently in city government, but also raising the consciousness of policymakers around issues of racism, equity, and inclusion.
The inclusion.
Yes.
Big word.
Yes.
So what have we learned from the unrest, the civil unrest? I mean, 2020's the year that was. Won't we be glad when it's over? But you've had challenges like no other. What have you learned from the unrest?
Well, I think that what we've learned from the civil unrest is a couple of things. That righteous indignation over the murder of George Floyd actually expands to a much broader lens here in Chicago, because
worldwide,
we've had our George Floyds in the name of Rekia Boyd and Quintonia LeGrier, and unfortunately a list that is way too long.
Laquan McDonald.
Laquan McDonald, absolutely. So we have to support the people who are out in the street. What I want to see is them channel that energy towards very concrete solutions. But I think what we've also seen, unfortunately, is people who don't share our values try to hijack these peaceful protests and turn them into something very different.
Now that's what I want to talk about. We saw on Monday, August 10th, we saw disaster. We saw downtown Chicago looted. We saw Michigan Avenue looted. We saw Oak Street. And we don't talk about the infiltration that came. That wasn't Chicago
I do.
people. Oh,
I do.
Tell me why, how, what do we do about it?
Well, let's even go back further.
Okay.
Because a lot of what we saw at the end of May, we saw really three things. We saw a massive public outcry of people who were righteously upset about the murder of George Floyd, about systemic racism. That was happening on one level. But embedded in those protesters were people who came armed for a fight with frozen water bottles, shovels,
Bowling balls.
all kinds of things. And they were using these things as weapons to incite the police, and tellingly, they came with videographers. Not just phones, but they came with videographers. Cameras, absolutely. And they've been very sophisticated about the way in which they have used social media real time to put out a narrative that actually doesn't match the narrative on the ground. We've gotten better and smarter and pushed the police department to make sure that they are owning the narrative, and where they screw up, obviously there's got to be accountability. But what we've seen is these forces that have embedded themselves into the peaceful protest, they have come to fight and incite the police.
Why didn't the news media report that? Because they made it look like these were kids from a certain South Side area and this is what the bad kids did. And it was infiltration. I was on the street. I went out on the street. I saw clusters of 10 people, white, in black, with suitcases with the things that you described. And you could see it and it was like, wait a minute, what are you guys doing?
And the third element, and that happened in May and again in August, is organized criminal robbery crews. Now, we've known that they've been a thing in Chicago. They were striking the downtown area in one-offs. They'd go and steal a car in the suburbs, bring the crew downtown, go into a Louis Vuitton, a Gucci, and do a smash and grab, and then take off at a high rate of speed. But when you see people coming with U-Haul trucks, with cargo vans, with sophisticated robbery tools, that's not folks from the neighborhood taking advantage of an opportunity. Now, some of that absolutely happened, some of that opportunism, but it was first instance happening at a time late at night on a Sunday night when they knew that we were most vulnerable, and they struck. So three pieces: peaceful protests, embedded vigilantes, and then very sophisticated organized robbery crews. And here's the other piece that you should know: this wasn't unique to Chicago.
It was all over the country.
It was all over the country. And on the night of August 10th, when we got hit, Baltimore got hit, Denver got hit, Dallas got hit.
So it was organized.
There's no question that it was organized.
Political year. This is a political year. We got a president in office that you've chatted with. Do you think this is Trump motivated, Republican motivated?
Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination, but when I talk to my fellow mayors in Atlanta, DC, Denver, Seattle, LA, and we are seeing literally the same things on the ground, when we are seeing literally the same things attacking us in social media, just changing the name of the mayors, who's got the level of sophistication that can do that?
I just read an article today in New York Times on Kanye West and how the organization for him, PR-wise, politically wise, all of them quit after, so much, but you could tell it's absolutely from a Trump organization, absolutely.
Yeah, so the messaging mirrors the things that the president and his team are saying. Trump is running on the 1968 Nixon plan, right? Present yourself as the law and order president. Well, how do you do that when there's peace? You don't do that. You orchestrate chaos, and then you attack and say, I am the answer.
And then attack the Democratic mayors.
Absolutely. And interestingly, black women.
Black women, very noticeable.